Today I'll be doing my persuasive speech on the ineffectiveness of gun control. My references include disastercenter.com, gunowners.org, the Washington Times, nationalgunrights.org, and foxnews.com. Today I will be speaking about the ineffectiveness of gun control. Through supporting facts and events, I will seek to persuade the audience that gun control is ineffective when pushed excessively by state and government officials. The Second Amendment right gives every citizen the right to keep and bear arms. So why is it that the government continues to push for gun control laws which have failed miserably in cities where they are heavily implemented? Take Washington, D.C. for example. This city has some of the strictest gun control laws in the nation. In 1978, the Court of Appeals upheld gun ban laws, leaving citizens without the right to carry handguns. The passing of this legislation would prove disastrous. Throughout the 80s and 90s, Washington, D.C. had one of the highest crime rates in the nation for cities with a population over 500,000 people. To break it down, I believe the reason why Washington has had such a high violent crime rate is due to the fact that the legislation passed which banned handguns created a huge black market for firearms dealers within the city. A black market for guns would not exist if they were legal and being issued to law-abiding citizens without criminal records, hence a background check. Instead, criminals could now go to their local arms dealers, illegal arms dealers, and buy an AK-47 for 20% of its original monetary value, hypothetically speaking. It was not until recently that the Supreme Court struck down Washington, D.C.'s controversial handgun ban. As a result, the crime rate in the city has plummeted nearly 25% since then. One of the most significant changes can be seen in the murder rate. In 2008, before the handgun ban, there were nearly 32 murders per 100,000 citizens. In 2010, roughly just 2 years later, there was 22 murders per 100,000 people. This is a significant drop considering that it was only a 2-year time difference. Firearms can also save lives, especially in rural areas, where law enforcement is far away and sparse in number. For example, Greg Bush, an Alaskan fishing guide, was ambushed by a charging bear while hiking on a trail. Luckily, he was armed with a Ruger 454 revolver and was able to squeeze off 3 shots. One of them proved fatal, killing the 900-pound bear. This story shows the necessity for firearms in rural areas. If Mr. Bush would have not been armed with his Ruger 454, he probably wouldn't have been able to tell the story today. Another case supporting the right to bear arms deals with an 80-year-old man in a Chicago neighborhood who was a Korean War veteran, and his house was invaded by an armed assailant. The assailant fired 2 shots, which thankfully missed. The man returned fire with his handgun and fatally shot the assailant. Technically, it is a felony to carry a handgun in the city of Chicago before the handgun ban was lifted, when this incident occurred. Therefore, this man could be put in prison for protecting himself from a younger, stronger criminal who had nearly a 13-page rap sheet. Fortunately, there have not been any charges filed against this man. But the fact that protecting someone's family and well-being is deemed illegally is absolutely ridiculous. In conclusion, when guns are in the hands of law-abiding citizens instead of common street criminals, they are an amazing tool that can be used to protect oneself and their family. Gun control simply creates a black market where illegal arm dealers get rich and criminals can obtain firearms for under half their value. Setting up a system where firearms are easily accessible to law-abiding citizens with a clean background, it would direct America in the right direction. And that concludes my speech. Now I'm going to take a question from my audience. Are there any questions?
Yeah, how do you explain the low crime rate and the stringent gun laws in countries like Japan?
Well, I think like countries like Japan, they have a smaller population and it's more densely populated. You know, people aren't as spread out. I mean, America definitely has dense areas, but it's not as spread out as a country like the United States. So I think it's easier to like centralize gun control, and Japan, you know, has a population. The United States has a population of over 350 million people, so it makes it, you know, a little hard to wipe out all the guns in this country as, say, a smaller country like the United Kingdom or Japan. All right. So, are there any more questions? All right, no more questions. So here is my great audience members. This is Katie, wave to the camera. All right, and Brandon and Mark. All right, thanks guys.